Man, oh man. Waking up on a Saturday morning, grabbing your BMX mongoose and riding down to the local arcade was a ritual. A $10 roll of quarters saved up from doing your shitty paper route in your pocket, which were always late on Saturdays for some reason. All morning you were doing battle with giant gorillas, yellow orbs that wanted to eat you, and driving timed-out racing games with questionable steering mechanisms. Then the arcades went away, because we all had the same games on our TVs. Atari, Nintendo, Sega Genesis. Then the games became more complicated. Eventually, everyone had a computer, and the games on there became darker, edgier, more violent. The world was introduced to its first-person shooter games with names like Castle Wolfenstein and Doom. You were more than hooked. Like a crack addict, you never left your bedroom, maybe to not even use the bathroom, until finally your dad kicks in the door and tells you to get the fuck off that damn computer and go do something with your life. Well, lucky for the rest of us, some of those kids that never left their bedrooms did go on to do something with their lives. And we're just as lucky to have one such kid who's now a creative director, art designer, and id Software's game director of 2020's award-winning Doom Eternal, and a huge pop culture nerd junkie, Hugo Martin, on this episode of $5 Buzz.
Step inside, lock the door behind you, make sure the towel's properly positioned. You're stepping in on another episode of $5 Buzz. We're ripping the lid right off season 3, episode 1. My name is I'm your humble narrator tonight, George Cursar, up here in Fairfield, Connecticut, checking in with my two co-pilots in Los Angeles, Pete Liska. What's going on, Pete?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man.
Good, man. Yeah. Back
on.
Season 3 is upon us. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, man. We did 40 episodes, and it's good to be back in the chair. Roger's dusting off the microphone as well. What's going on, man?
Well, today we missed one more of the big dogs on the Ghost of Christmas Past. My boy Peter Bogdanovich died today, the man who directed The Last Picture Show and What's Up, Doc, Paper Moon, and the cult film Saint Jack. So he 82 years of age. So we're all sitting watching. I watched a little bit of Paper Moon earlier today.
He's had a great run. Yeah. Well, I'm really excited about tonight's guest. It's the first guest that's appeared on the show that went to the same high school that I did.
And elementary school.
Which I was going to say. Linwood Elementary School. Our guest tonight is Hugo Martin. He is the director of id Software, which is the company that creates the video game Doom. Doom Eternal was the game that Hugo worked on last. But before we jump into the professional stuff, Hugo, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. Sorry for the delay. It was a little hard for me to find a room here to be able to do this, but I'm glad I was able to figure it out.
None of our listeners are going to know that, Hugo.
Actually, anybody who watches my streams, they know the score because it's always like that. So I'm good, and it's cold as hell here in Texas. That's where I'm at right now, and it is freezing outside. We're actually going through a cold front has moved in, and it's everything's turning to ice.
What does that mean, freezing in Dallas? I was just in Chicago where it was 4 degrees. What is freezing to Dallas?
Probably it can get into I know you're going to laugh. It can get into the high 20s here. It'll touch the high 20s here briefly, usually the low 30s. But I think the thing is actually, I shouldn't say that. Somebody out there in Texas is going to be like, what are you talking about? It gets colder than that. But it's just that you're not prepared for it. I think that's the thing about Texas, that everybody says, oh, what about the heat? Honestly, everything about Texas is built for the heat. So massive ACs everywhere. It's not a problem. And it's a dry heat in Texas. So it doesn't really feel that bad. I mean, me and George come from New York. I mean, it's the humidity, being in a subway in the middle of New York summer with the humidity and all the people, that is horrible. The heat in Texas is bad. Don't get me wrong, but it's a dry heat. which is very tolerable. It's the cold that you're just not ready for here. Like nobody is. So sometimes we'll get like a sheet of ice, like a little bit of rain when it's freezing, and everything will have like just a little 1/4 inch of ice on it, and you can't go anywhere. Like it's and you fall on your ass just like a YouTube video. Like you test it out, you're like, how bad could it be? One step out your door, you are on your ass. Everybody falls in Texas because it's quite literally everything is frozen solid. It's not like that right now, but it might be in a little bit.
Copy that.
Well, Hugo, let's take it back to the old days. You and I grew up in the same neighborhood out in
Yes,
Long Island, Farmingville, New York. I remember all of us. You were there. So was I, man. Is your family still out in Farmingville by any chance?
not Farmingville in West Babylon, but I went back to Farmingville to go see Sachem and my old house on Pine Lawn Avenue.
Yeah, dude, I was there. My parents still live in the same town and the same house, so I walk around the neighborhood too. And Hugo, this is like the mid 80s. A lot of tackle football up at Linwood Elementary School, riding around on BMX bikes. A lot of going up to the video store, and it was pretty apparent from early.
Triple P pizza.
Triple P pizza, yeah, dude. Tri-County handball courts.
Yeah, which anybody who hung out behind Tri-County. I remember my older brother who was like 10 years old. He's like, we were in elementary school. He's like, I don't ever want to see you behind Tri-County, which was literally right behind our elementary schools. Like we were like these innocent kids playing at the playground, and just beyond the fence, like 10 feet. Apparently that was where like gangs would hang out, you know. And my brother always thought, I don't want to see you playing handball back there. I'd be like, why? I mean, those guys, they're always there. Like,
Hugo, there was a lot of long hairs walking around with like Iron Maiden and Ozzy back patches on their denim coats, right?
Yeah. See, the reason why my brother knew that, because he was one of them. I mean, he was the long hair with an Ozzy shirt. So absolutely. What else was over there? I mean, the 7-Eleven. I mean, it's funny that we bring that up because like, and I went to Pizza Stop when I went home, which was lived up to the name, I have to say. The memory that's happened. I don't know if this has happened to you, but like the memory of your favorite pizza places, sometimes you'll go back and you're like, like this is not as good as either I built it up in my mind to be better than what I thought it was, or they changed their sauce, which is usually the case.
Well, here's the thing for me is, man, I live in Connecticut now, and these people in Connecticut are like, they're all jazzed up about these pizza places in New Haven, which I'll give them a lot of respect. It's good pizza, but I'm like, dude, I'm from Long Island. Like, any pizza back there is better than this stuff. But,
I had some pretty good thin crust pizza in Upper Illinois. I gotta tell you.
Yeah. So Hugo, but taking it back to like the video stores and 7-Eleven, playing those coin operated video games, like, and it was pretty apparent from early on that you were a very gifted artist and that you had a very unique talent. What do you remember about those like late 80s, early 90s kind of influenced you as an artist to kind of harness your vision to kind of what you're doing now as making a top class video game?
A couple things. I mean, it's funny you say that because I often reference so there was the 7-Eleven that was kind of diagonal to the Tri-County mall or whatever that was.
Yes.
I mean, it was like 10 things. And then like there was the taxidermist, and then next to the taxidermist, which the taxidermist, I don't remember if it was still there.
It's a bar now, dude. It's a bar.
Yeah, I saw that. And next to that was a 7-Eleven. And in the 7-Eleven, obviously BMX, no helmets, go there, eat what is the worst hot dog ever. But when you were a kid, it was awesome.
A big bite.
And they had like Ninja Gaiden in there. They would always have a
Golden Axe.
Yeah, Golden Axe or Ninja Gaiden they had for a while. And just kind of just leaving that incredible impression on you, certainly as children of the 80s, you know, the glory days of the arcade, which would ultimately be the end of the arcade. I think when we look back on it, it's funny now in Dallas, we have like Barcadia, which are like these hip bars that are like arcade bars. And all the arcades are what were in the 7-Elevens and pizza shops when we were kids. It's like Mortal Kombat and, you know, Street Fighter and all that good stuff. So definitely like really fond memories, you know, of that stuff. And I think like a lot of kids and a lot of developers, who end up working in the industry as game developers like myself, it means a lot to you. I mean, I was obsessed with video games and movies for sure. Like, I think the art was a byproduct of an obsession with video games, movies, and cartoons. And I don't know if you remember, like, also my mom was incredibly supportive to irritating levels of obsession. She was so up my ass about everything related to that stuff. She really wanted me to pursue it. So she gave me, I'm very fortunate. I mean, she took me to classes and I ended up studying privately with this guy, Raphael DeSoto. And he taught adults, but she convinced him to teach me. And so it was just me and a bunch of old ladies. In about 6th grade, I started, I had done she took me to a bunch of private classes before that, always searching for like different teachers to teach me. So I started really young. Like I remember like, even like 3rd grade, I think I was having private instruction, which I was not a good student. I mean, it's not like, oh, the young prodigy. No, I was bored out of my mind that whoever she had come to my house to teach me was like, this kid does not pay attention for shit, which I did not. And, but I was passionate about drawing. She wanted me to harness that talent. She wanted to encourage it. So she got me a lot of private teachers in that house in Pine Lawn when I was in Linwood. And eventually I found this guy, Raphael DeSoto. All the teachers up to that point were really good. Took some classes around Long Island, wherever I could go. And then he was like a master artist. It was crazy. Like a lot of the artists from the 50s and 60s, the golden age of illustration, before photography and eventually the computer would basically squash illustration. Before all that stuff in the 50s, I mean, illustrators were the photographers. I mean, the first
You're talking like all the dime store novels and stuff too.
Yeah,
like
exactly. No, that's what he did. He did pulp novels. Yeah. These cheap dime store pulp novels, detective magazines. The Shadow was one of the things he did.
And a lot of those guys also did advertising.
They did. And so when they retired, a lot of them moved to Long Island. A lot of them moved to Connecticut. Some of them, all the neighboring areas that were much cheaper because they spent the prime of their career in the city, and then they moved out to like Long Island. So that's where he retired. He had his studio, and he was just an old man in his late early 80s. And he said, all right, I'll teach your son. And I was really lucky, man. I got to be around a painter that I had no business being around at all. And just absorbing it because he was just, and I wasn't a good student. Again, I was a kid. I was fucking bored. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. But that's really where it started. I think that gave me, the 10,000 hours principle, which I believe it. I put in maybe 5, by the time I graduated high school. I was already had like a big advantage because I'd been exposed to a bunch of stuff and just little things like just advanced techniques and theories on art that I would have learned later in college anyway. It's not like I learned something no one will ever learn. I mean, I just got it earlier. And
that's something very similar to what Chuck Jones said. By the time he got into professionalism, or in school, he'd already done 10,000 hours by the time he got there.
The problem for me was because I think George will omit this part, but I wasn't the most behaved kid either. So like,
I wanted to ask you, Hugo, like towards the end of high school, because, and maybe you could give the cliff notes of how heavy, what was going on, 93, 94 on our high school, and what was the final years of high school, like your senior year? What was it like, and how did you decide to go to Pratt? Was it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I could do much of anything else. My grades were, I found my my report card when I was home, and my goodness, it was not very good. But I always knew that that's what I wanted to do. I mean, I was just focused on that. I didn't know what I wanted. I wanted to be an artist because I was exposed to what the life of a retired illustrator, he was an illustrator, would look like. I didn't want to do that. I mean, I have a different perspective on it now because I'm 45. But when I was a kid, I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this, man. This guy lives in his gallery and his studio. So I knew I wanted to do something with entertainment. That's all I knew. But I mean, like most high schools, and it's certainly in the 90s, I mean, like, you know, they didn't have a very good, I shouldn't say that. I mean, it was just like, you want to be a painter. Like in hindsight, it's like, you know, what does that even mean? You know, like, or
Yeah.
I want to work in entertainment, or I want to be a director. Like there was no real
Avenue
or clear understanding of what you could do in the entertainment industry coming out of high school in 1994. So I submitted my stuff to all the local art colleges, which we grew up in Long Island. So the good news is we were surrounded by the best art schools in the country, like Pratt, SVA, Parsons. You know, these are really good schools. And I ended up getting, I got the best scholarship of the schools. I got a really good scholarship to Pratt and went there, which was super fun. But because I was kind of further along in my art education than your average 12th grader. And Pratt was kind of a very fine art school, you know, very much like contemporary modern art, you know, abstract art. Like it didn't really connect with me. So I did not do well at all. I did very poorly my first year in art school. It took a little while for me to like find what it is I wanted to do. And honestly, to any young listeners in the audience, it honestly, the very thing that I got started doing when my mom said, oh, hey, he's got talent, let's find him a teacher, is the very thing I do now. It took me 10, 20 years to silence everything, and in some cases tell everybody to shut up. And I'm like, I really just want to make stuff blow up in video games with shotguns and like, you know, like when I got back into concept art after Pratt and all these different things, I was able to just get back to what I was doing when I was a kid anyway, which was just drawing monsters and, you know, doing the cool stuff that I wanted to do all along. But art school training, it's like, you know, it gets a little formal, you know, and you get
they were more interested in Jeffrey Koons, less Frank Frazetta, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was weird, actually. Like you couldn't go into a lot of art schools, at least in the 90s in New York, and say, I like comic books. You know, they'd be like, what? Comics? You know, like what? I'm like, yeah, I think they're fucking awesome. Like, what are you talking about? You know, like, you know, and like, so yeah, it was kind of a roundabout path to get back to video games. But the passion for video games never went away. I did get a chance to work in the film industry, which was my dream, and that was really cool. But ultimately, I had a better connection to video games, and I never stopped playing them, and they never stopped getting more sophisticated. That was the good news. Was like, as I was progressing in my career, so was the video game industry in terms of technology. And now today, I mean, your average cinematic in a video game is good as anything, you know, that you'll see in CG animation. Just about, it's incredible.
So Hugo, after Pratt, like, could you tell us a little bit how you made your way out to Los Angeles?
That was crazy. Yeah, I mean, I can't even believe I got into art school, to be honest, because none of us were very good students. I mean, George, were you doing good at 12th grade?
No, dude, I was, well, the funny thing is, dude, after you and I grew up in the same neighborhood, and then you moved to another neighborhood with
Amplo and all those guys.
Yeah, with Chris Amplo, who, funny enough, is building the new Nassau Coliseum. His twin brother Joe is the head coach of Navy lacrosse, right? The men's Navy lacrosse. Yeah, and Brian Rapino, who I tried to get to call in tonight, but he texted me and said to say hello to you. He worked at Goldman Sachs for 20 years. So those three and yourself, I mean, I think you guys all did, funny enough, for all the damage that was being done to our bodies and to the environment at large. Everyone landed on their feet, right?
Yeah, we were just exactly.
I was not doing good though. No, I was.
When I see young people, I always just think, at some point, your maturity is going to catch up with your intellect, you know, or your ambition. That's really it. Like your immaturity, you're all ambitious, but it's misplaced ambition, you know, because you're immature. So I think, like, at some point, we, you know, all of us, everybody, you know, matures just enough for that to kind of balance itself out, which is good. Thank God. But from Pratt, I actually so at the end of Pratt, I got serious. I left school for a little while. I actually did the Long Island blue collar house painting, wallpapering thing for a summer or two.
Was that
Just
with
like,
Gurgley? Were you with
I did that.
Gurgley?
I did that with Gurgley. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Who I just saw this weekend. And well, at first I did it on my own, and then he got into it after me, and then we did it together. But like, and just kind of figuring out what it is I wanted to do. I refocused. Then you know, I think there's a moment where in a creative person's life, I think for a lot of people, where like you see something someone's doing and you point to it and say, that's what I want to do. Like I think I could do that. And even if I can't, I find it exciting enough that that's what I want to pursue. And up to that point, I was kind of going through the motions. And Industrial Light and Magic came to Pratt, and the concept department came to Pratt. Concept artists, they designed the look of creatures. Their concept team at that time was just about getting started on the what the hell did they call them? The special editions of the Star Wars. That's when they re-released the Star Wars movies and put in those new CG graphics.
Right.
And then after that, they were getting ready for the prequels. So like their concept team came, and it was the coolest shit I'd ever seen. I mean, like the dude's like, my job is to draw spaceships and monsters all day, and I work in movies and I make a good living. And I was like, that's a job? Like, really? That's what you do?
It's like dudes like Ralph McQuarrie and Sid Mead and dudes like that.
Exactly. And so that was it. I was just like, the spark was lit, the connection was made. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do with my life. I want to do that. And got really, really focused, got super, super motivated. And you know, I guess at that moment, the maturity caught up with the ambition. And I was like, you know, had a serious fire lit under my ass. I had to get into the industry. I had to learn how to do it. Problem is, there's no training for that in New York, especially in the 90s. Like, there's just nothing. I mean, you know, I'm in class and we're looking at, you know, Jeff Koons and like all this modern art stuff and, you know, Jackson Pollock paintings. And I'm like, dude, I got to learn how to design spaceships. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with this, what you're teaching me right now, you know, like, so I told my teachers what I wanted to do, and I made my own program. They said, look, I want to take these classes and I want to substitute the work that I do in these classes around New York City for your class. I'm just going to give you the homework that they're giving me. I want to be a concept artist. This is what I need. And I basically created my own curriculum. They all agreed, like, sure, cool, as long as you're doing stuff and you seem excited. So I would take, like, I went to LA. I went everywhere in New York that I could find anybody who did anything related to the entertainment industry. The best I could do was animation. That was about as close as I could get, because there is some animation in New York. I started taking really foundational figure drawing classes, traditional drawing, anatomy, like just the kind of the basics of illustration, the kind of techniques and fundamentals you would need to excel as a concept artist. Built up just enough of a portfolio to scrape around, and when I graduated, I got a job at Wizards of the Coast. Just bullshit jobs. I was I had imposter syndrome. I was not a concept artist. I was just faking it, but I wanted to do it, and I had just enough of a portfolio. But at that point, I had pretty much taught myself in whatever classes I could find. I did a bunch of. I'm a big. This is cheesy, but I'm a big Tony Robbins guy, especially at the time, because when I was really unfocused, sorry. Am I about to raise my hand? Oh, that's something just said it. Raised my hand. When I was really unfocused in art school, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with my life. I mean, I was like, all right, I got in with this major scholarship. I lost that inside of a year with the horrific GPA. I'm hanging out in New York City with my friends, not making art. I'm not motivated. I'm not doing anything. And you know, how do I get focused? So I was listening to really anything. I like self-help books. I'm really into that stuff. So, you know, I would look back on now and say some of what he teaches is kind of doesn't really apply. It's a little hokey. But the one thing he does say that I think is accurate is that you just have to find somebody who does what you want to do and role model that person. So every concept artist that I saw, I kept seeing the name Art Center coming up, Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. And I'm like, that's it. I got to go to Art Center. You know, like that's where I got to go. So I worked in the city on jobs doing this and that just long enough to be, oh, look at that. just long enough to be able to to get enough money to be able to get myself over to LA to Art Center. And I found out I did the student loan thing. I worked out my financial aid, and they gave me nothing. It was going to be too expensive. I remember I hadn't graduated Pratt yet. They told me that it was because I will have already received my degree from Pratt, an undergrad degree, and Art Center is another undergrad. They do not give student loans to you can only, all those student loans that you get, in particular the grants, are only given to first-time undergraduates. If you already have an undergraduate degree, you cannot get access to their grants. And I was like, that's it, that I'm going to get this piece of paper from Pratt, and I can't go to Art Center because of it, because I don't get the grants. And there's no way I would go to Art Center is like absurdly expensive. It's ridiculous. So they said, yeah. So I went back to my liberal arts teacher. This was like a month before graduation. I just told him, I'm not going to come to your class anymore. You're going to give me an F, and I don't want the degree. I did walk. I put on the hat. I went everything. I was 3 credits shy, but like I purposely failed. Didn't get my degree. Went back to Art Center. Got the grants. It was pretty funny when I told them what I did. They were all just kind of like, I don't know if you could do that, but sure. Bought a beater Honda Accord for $1,000, and that thing took me all the way through Art Center, dude. 3 years, and it took me to my first job at Naughty Dog, which was crazy. Made enough money freelancing. I spent 2 years working after Pratt. I knew I wanted to go to Art Center. I had it all set up. I needed to save money. I worked in the industry, got a chance to see what it is, worked as a concept artist, but I was not a concept artist at all. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. And saved up enough money and went out to LA to Art Center. And that was the best decision I ever made. That school is completely amazing. It's a Harvard of design schools. It was nuts. And then that was it. After that, I was a real concept artist. I graduated. I learned a trade. I could apply that to work in LA, and I was off and running.
I can only think of Cal Arts being the only other school out here that would probably help in that same curriculum, because I know that they do a lot of stuff with the film industry, and they started, a lot of the people that worked designing a lot of the stuff that they were designing in the 90s as far as concept design. I know they did a lot of that. There are a lot of students that came out of Cal Arts as well.
Cal Arts, I was going to go to Cal Arts. It's a more for animation, because I was torn between animation and film. I didn't know if I wanted to be a concept artist, or certainly visual development and animation is another path. And I was, as a kid, when me and George were in 11th and 12th grade, I was hanging out doing nothing. And then when I was home, I was watching Disney movies. So like, I was like, secretly, I had this talent that I knew every word to every Disney movie. It wasn't too secret, because I would make Gurgly and everybody watched those movies with me. So like, and then what was really funny was like Rapino and those guys, especially Gurgly and John Barry, they would secretly be like, I got to be honest, these movies are really good. And we would watch them. I mean, me and John went to go see Lion King at a way too old age to be doing this, because we were like 19. We went to go see that thing like 7 times, because I was completely obsessed. I was just like totally obsessed with Disney. So, but Cal Arts is a really good school, and there's a couple of good schools out there. But that was it. I mean, I finally connected the dots and found what I wanted to do. Got the training to do it, and graduated, and then just started working.
Cool.
Roger, do you think we take a break here and then talk about Hugo getting into the industry he's in now?
Yeah, it's sure. Let's take a quick break, and I'll bring it back in, and we'll jump on, and we'll start talking about what we got. Hey, we have a quick favor to ask. We want to get the word out, and the way to help is for you to subscribe to us on either Apple or Spotify. And it would be really huge if you give us a rating and a review. Much love.
All right, guys. Well, we're back with Hugo, getting the backstory and some fun stories between some childhood stuff, some high school stuff with George and Hugo's been awesome. Raj, what do you got, man?
So Hugo, you get back to California, you go to school in Pasadena. When do you officially actually start your career as somebody who works within the video game industry?
So I started after Pratt for 2 years. and that was in animation and MTV Animation. Then I did concept art with Wizards of the Coast, and then I did a few odds and ends jobs here and there. But then the first job at an art center was at Naughty Dog, which was really cool. I went to the career department at Art Center, and they said, hey, we know a guy over the Art Center's full of connections. I went there, showed a guy my portfolio, got hired on the spot. It was amazing. And they hadn't started Uncharted yet. They were working on it. At the time, it was very different from what it became. I got hired to work on Jack X Team Racing, and it was an awesome company. Naughty Dog is one of the best, and it was an honor to be there. I had so much fun. I knew instantly that I connected, like I belonged in a video game studio. Like, just a lifetime of playing video games. It just was a good fit, I ultimately
you got to see Uncharted from the ground floor, huh?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah. I got to work on Drake when they first started, and it was cool. It was cool to see that. The majority of my time there was definitely spent on I went there to work on Jack X Team Racing. It was a racing game for Jack and Daxter. I just graduated. I went to Art Center for automotive design, again, using kind of the Tony Robbins approach. All of my heroes were car design majors at Art Center. So that's what I went to go do. And while I was at Pratt, they had an industrial design program and a car design program. And I would say there is a large part of me that always wanted to pursue car design. That was another thing. When I saw what car design was at Pratt, I was like, I think that's what I want to do, but I don't know. I'm not as much of a car guy. I mean, I like beautiful cars as much as anybody, but when I saw the concept art guy show up at ILM, that was the one that I was like, no, that's what I want to do, but getting to study automotive design at Art Center was fucking amazing. I mean, my teacher was Ken Okayama. He was the head of the department, and he designed the Enzo Ferrari, and that had just come out when we were in school. And I had people from BMW and, Honda, all these crazy studios teaching me about design. Nike, you get what you pay for, man. That school is really expensive, but it is amazing. And so leaving there and going to Naughty Dog. So I had a car design portfolio. Well, at least there was a lot of automotive influences in my entertainment portfolio coming out of Art Center. So they gave me, they happened to be working on a racing game. I didn't even know that. I went in there and I just said, hey, here's my stuff. I'm looking for a job. And meanwhile, they were working on a racing game, and they were like, oh, dude, you're perfect. Like, just, So every day I was just drawing cars for a video game. It was so much fun, these combat racing vehicles. And soon after that, I liked Uncharted a lot. I thought it was dope, but I kind of wanted to pursue something that was more science fiction. So after that, I went to Blur Studios to go work with Tim Miller. He went on to direct Deadpool.
Yeah, and exactly who that is. Yep.
Yeah, and he runs and owns Blur, and that was too much fun. That was it was like a super creative frat house. That's what it felt like. It's just a bunch of young guys and girls, like people really driven, motivated. I worked with Jeff Fowler. He was a good friend of mine. We worked on a short film together, co-directed it, and he went on to direct Sonic the Hedgehog. And Dave Wilson, who directed Bloodshot.
The one with Vin Diesel.
Yeah, with Vin Diesel. And the graduating class of Blur circa 2010, I guess it would be, is very impressive. So now I know. That's the thing. I think once you get
is that the extent of your involvement in the film world, or because you said you worked in the film industry for a little while?
I did. So I was at Blur for a while, and that was really great because it's a crossroads of like games, movies, IP development, advertising. Tim would develop his own IPs. I went there specifically to work on his one IP that he had. I don't think I could name it, but it was amazing. Just because it's probably under NDA or something. Well, actually, no, he made a short film of it, so it's called Rockfish. But and then we would get other directors who would come and hire his concept department, of which I was a part of, to work in on development for their IPs, like their movies and their different things. So all kinds of crazy projects, like Kevin Eastman Ninja Turtles fame, the guy
Yeah.
who developed Insurance. I mean, he would come, oh, I have this idea for a movie, and I would do concepts on it. And then all of a sudden LucasArts would show up. Hey, we're working on this little game called Force Awakens. We need concepts for it. And, you're going to work on the cinematics and develop some of the characters for the games. Like, it was crazy. Like, we had this, and the office was sick. I mean, everything about Blur is just, it's every 20 something year old person's, who's in the creative industry and wants to work in the entertainment industry is their dream job. It was amazing. And, made really good friends. And then after that, I went free. Actually, after that, like every young person, I had that, like, you know what, I need to do my own thing. It's my own thing. And so I started developing my own IPs and went through that journey and learned a ton. That led to, like, I saved up a bunch of my own money to be able to do my own thing. And my wife, at the time, she was cool with it. We helped each other out. And for about 3 months, I mean, I just pursued my own intellectual properties, was working on something with this guy called Mac. His name was Mac. He's a Navy SEAL. He had a show, I think it's called Super Weapons or something. It was on the Discovery Channel. And we were talking about stuff. I mean, I had a bunch of things, like, like every person in LA, working on the script. And I wasn't working on a script. I was working on an IP. And ended up doing stand-up comedy and acting classes. I was on the main stage at it's a bringer show, not a real comedy thing, bringer show. At the Comedy Store, though, that was nuts. And then just refocused, spent all of my money and some of the money we had saved for a house, and went back to work. And soon after that, I got Pacific Rim. I went in and was lucky enough to be able to work on the design of the Jaegers for Pacific Rim with Guillermo. Lived with him quite literally, like, worked in his house for the better part of a year, and which was an incredible experience. I mean, being around Guillermo for a year, just watching him work. He keeps his concept team very close. I was really fortunate to have play a pretty big role in the development of that film, and see how an IP is developed, at that level on feature films, super close, and being at the right at the tip of that creative endeavor was amazing.
Yeah, one of my personal friends worked on that too, who owns a company with Guillermo Navarro, the DP.
He owns Murata, right?
Yeah, it's Kaplui Industries. It's a bunch of cameras. What's the camera? It's what Ernesto Lamelli is the DP that I work with all the time, and him and Navarro bought like a shit ton of cameras. So they sit on like Phantoms and Helium, every red, every brand new camera, they've got 5 of them. So it's good. It's a one-stop shop.
It's funny, dude. It's such a small world. Like the guy I went to school with, Matt Tremblay, he's the lead designer on the red camera. And I remember when that started from, as you know, I'm sure the guy who owned Oakley,
right,
left Oakley to start a company. And I remember he hired my buddy at Oakley. And then when he left, he's like, I'm going with this guy, obviously mega billionaire. He's going to start his own camera company. It's called the Red Camera. And he kept telling me all about red camera. And I remember this before, it even came out. And now, like, obviously it's a serious fucking camera and everybody knows what it is. Yeah. But like, and Navarro, I think it's Navarro, after Pacific Rim, he went and I believe the company was called Motion Theory, and they started a company called Murata. And Murata, I worked at Murata after Pacific Rim, who I think, I never saw him there, but I think Navarro was a part of that or something. If I remember correctly, I don't think Murata is not around anymore. I think it got dissolved, but Murata worked on Pacific Rim. That was going to be like Guillermo's production company of some kind and a joint venture with Guillermo. I mean, he's involved in everything.
Right.
And then I got hired there as like a visual development supervisor. And then honestly though, after all that stuff, like I knew, seeing film up close like that, I was like, okay, I wasn't sure where I would end up necessarily in the entertainment industry, but I really thought, you know what, man, I belong in games. Like, I think it fit me better going all the way back to the 7-Eleven Ninja Gaiden stuff. It's just like, I never stopped gaming. I mean, I did stop gaming for a little while when I was at Art Center, just because I had to fucking get my schoolwork done. But I ended up just putting aside the film stuff, which was tough. I mean, I'd spent so many
What's
years.
the thought process there, though, Hugo? I mean, to you, what is the big primary or core difference in the draw for gaming versus creating a movie versus creating a game?
I like as an artist, I like the fact that the consumer would, and I hold the consumer in the highest regard. Some people hear me say that, they're always like, why does it always say consumer? I'm like, that because at Art Center, that's how I was taught. I mean, that consumer's never wrong. And the idea that they would spend in a movie, they spend an hour and a half with your work, whatever it is, if you're, whatever it is you do. And in a game, they'll spend 200, 300, 400 hours. Right. I mean, there's no, I mean, I have fans who have spent easily 1,000 hours playing Doom Eternal, and they know it. So there's nothing more satisfying to a creative team than to have something that people have that has the potential for people to spend that much time with. It's incredibly satisfying. It's true that I'm a commercial artist. I'm not a fine artist, but by definition, in my mind, a fine artist is someone who, commercial artist is someone who makes art with others, for others, and so I'm a part of a team and I get to make it for other people. And it's unbelievably satisfying to see that reaction from the fans. So that was intriguing to me. And honestly,
define a fine artist for me.
I would say a little bit coming from Pratt, but this is, and I don't mean this in a negative way, someone who makes art for themselves by themselves. I mean, right. I think if you are making fine art, in most cases, I think the best fine art that I love is art that truly comes from the artist. It's their view on the world. You're getting to see the world through their eyes. That's what I find.
It tends to be more personal.
Absolutely. I mean, I love someone like David Hockney's work. I think is fascinating because I want to see how that's how he sees things, which I think is amazing. And because it's him and he's making it for himself. I mean, it's uncompromised, and in that regard, I'm envious. I mean, I think it's incredible. So I also thought that having spent time in a film environment and then spent time in a game environment at Naughty Dog and then with Blur to a certain degree, I just clicked. I mean, you know it when you're there, whenever you meet someone or see a thing or find yourself in a situation that you're like, this is where I belong. I when I left Naughty Dog, I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to go on my journey and do more science fiction stuff. And Uncharted was not science fiction, but I fucking loved it there. I mean, I really, really liked it there. I just liked the making games felt amazing. It felt exciting to me. There was a buzz about it that I couldn't stop thinking about. So when I got back to it after Pacific Rim, I just really wanted to focus in on working on games. And that's what I did.
So when you say science fiction, I always have a couple of different ways of looking at that. I mean, do I consider Star Wars science fiction versus Blade Runner or 2001 or Solaris by Tarkovsky or Metropolis by Fritz Lang? Or do I, does that encompass the more fantasy world of the space operas that Lucas has made so popular? Where do you sit in that pantheon of what you consider science fiction?
Really, all of it. Even fantasy. I would say I just have an interest in creating worlds. That's where we get to invent things and world build and come up with fiction. Very much the little kid playing with his GI Joes and throwing the towel on the ground and pretending it's a mountain landscape and making gun sounds and making up stories for battles and playing with your army. It's that. It just so with science fiction, it's really more about the fact that I get to design what the world is, the characters, the outfits, and with that's actually, with games too. I mean, it's people get to live in that world, which I think is so satisfying. It's funny, like too, like when we were George asked earlier about like those early memories. I remember Brian Rapino, Gurgley, John, everybody used to come to my house to play video games, and I would I'd buy the candle, the colorful candle from the store in the mall that you buy all the trippy shit from the store in the mall. Hot Topic.
Okay.
And, yeah, and then
I was gonna say Utopia.
Was it? Utopia? No, yeah, Utopia too. And then
Spencer's.
put it above my TV, and they would come over and we would play video games. And I wasn't the greatest athlete. I was terrible at math. I was really good at video games. I was the kid in the neighborhood who was like, nobody could beat him in video games. What's really funny is now I get crushed by people at my office, because what really happens is you get older, there's something in your brain. It just does not fire as fast. And so I don't know about you guys, but if you ever play Warzone, Call of Duty with these kids, dude, I mean, I get my ass kicked.
I get slaughtered, man.
Slaughtered.
12-year-olds. Plus,
Hugo, is it true? Is it true that these guys, the serious ones, they actually play on a smaller screen because it's that much faster?
Yeah.
I've heard that.
They play, dude. Their setups, their rigs. This is the coolest part. I mean, they are like hot rods. I mean, it's the same way that somebody would trick out their Mustang in the 80s and 90s. I mean, like, they know everything about they set them up. They're blazing fast. These thousands of dollar rigs, and dude, you're just not touching them, man. I mean, they're just, and it's funny because I'm like the old guy in the studio, like, I used to be the best at video games. Like, yeah, dude, sit down. Like, like just, which honestly, fuck him. I don't stop talking trash, even if I'm losing. I'm just like, so what, that is really humbling. My son is 11 and he destroys me. I can't keep up with him at all. It's the funniest thing. But yeah, I think to answer your original question, just being able to design a world, I think that's what's good about science fiction. I favor science fiction probably a little bit more than fantasy, but I like fantasy too.
Right. Sure. So,
Hey,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, Hugo. So right before the pandemic started, listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and all of a sudden fucking Hugo Martin pops up. Guy I went to elementary school with, played in the band with. What's it like? Does Rogan give you a call, or do you guys get in touch with him, or what was that experience like? That's a pretty big situation nowadays, right? It's like, I guess back in the old days, if you were going to go on Johnny Carson or something like that, is that fair to say, or what was that experience like?
It was really nerve-wracking. I was very nervous.
You fucking slayed it, dude. I listened to it again today, and you guys were just like, I felt like you guys were it was just totally chill, right?
Yeah. Other than like, I did think that he was, people comment on it. Like he is funny. Like a couple of times I was just like, I don't think Joe likes to talk about that too much, but he wanted to talk a lot about VR and stuff like that. And, because of the industry, like I can't really talk too much about things that I don't work on, because people will interpret that as, there'll be an article like, oh, it's working on a VR game. No, right. He asked me a question, but and I think because he's such a Quake guy, he really just wanted to talk about Quake. But so on that front, we kind of missed each other a little bit. But no, our PR people are amazing. So in the build up to the game, I think that they look for opportunities for people who are interested in talking about Doom. I think Joe is a really big Quake fan, and he knows the id guys from way back. He had Carmack on his show. Carmack was the founder of it. And so he saw and heard about Doom. And I think Joe keeps tabs on some of the bigger games coming out there. And Doom being this like classic id game brought back to life with AAA graphics. And so he agreed to do it. And I went there. I was just super nervous. And that was the only thing I when I was on there, I just didn't know, like, he wanted, I want to talk about Doom. That's
Yeah.
it. But you know, whenever we got on the subject of like VR or anything else, I'm not sure how to answer that stuff just because it's just not what I work on, and I don't want to be misleading or seem like I'm giving hints about what we could be doing in the future. But it was cool. It was definitely really really fun, and he's got an amazing studio. I mean,
Yeah,
it
looks
was
so.
it was a great experience. Felt
And
really
one
cool
o-
to be able to do that.
One other Doom question I had, and it's probably before your time, but was Trent Rezner involved in the soundtrack in the old days? And that's, or did he did some of the expansion packs?
Yeah, Quake. I mean, back in the so it is a crazy company. I mean, that's
Give the listeners like explain like how the orders of magnitude, how big this company is that you're working for.
it kind of listen. I didn't do this, so I can brag on this because I wasn't there. I was with
All right.
George hanging out in the back of Linwood when this was going on, but like not really. This was '92, so we were in high school, not going to class. But the it pretty much invented first-person shooters. I mean,
Right.
you know, sure, can you say that specifically? I mean, there were other things going on, but like, you know, the largest contributor, if not the creator of the first-person shooter genre, John Carmack, you know, developed one of the first 3D engines or the first 3D engine in video games. I mean, the guy's a genius, certified, legit. You got to think like prior to that, it's like Super Mario Brothers. And then he's like, fuck that 3D. Well, Doom wasn't 3D, but like the Quake was, but like moving through three-dimensional space, you know, with a shotgun murdering demons. I mean,
Castle Wolfenstein, then Doom, or is it
Yeah.
kind of like one back?
no,
to back?
Castle Wolf, yeah, Wolfenstein first, then Doom.
Where does Grand Theft Auto fall into that?
That's way later.
Timeline.
Way later.
Way later.
Way later. Yeah.
And they've certainly blazed their own trail that's like, you know, forever changed games.
They thought Doom was the end of civilization. Wait till
yeah,
Auto comes in.
yeah. So I mean, and the stories of id back in the day. I mean, it was a bunch of kids, you know, like 20 somethings, changing the face of entertainment just because they thought and making each other laugh. I mean, they were like, give him a shotgun, and he should murder demons, and we should call it Doom because in The Color of Money. I fucking love that this is where the name of Doom comes from because I love The Color of Money. And
Scorsese movie with Paul Newman.
Yeah. When Vince, Tom Cruise's character, he pulls out
the broomstick, the doomstick, the
pool stick. He opens it up and the guy asks him what it's called, and he says Doom. And that's where they got it from. So like as a child of the 80s, the creators of Doom used all of these 80s references to inform they just made they were like, they loved Evil Dead, they loved Aliens, and they liked, you know, all these pop culture references that me and George were just, you know, that was our shit. I mean, we were kids when that was
Had a
going
power
on.
test.
That was my shit, man. Come on.
Exactly.
No, that's an awesome story. I love that.
And so they made Doom out of that and changed everything. And dude, the stories, you know, like the parking garages, you know, when you make a game that successful and you make it with like 13 people, I mean, there was nobody there. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like the stories.
It's like building a computer in your garage.
Absolutely. And a garage full of them. This guy had a Lamborghini and that guy had a Ferrari and like all this crazy shit. The only guy left from those days is is Kevin Cloud. And he's super cool about the stories. Like, you know, we want to bother him and have him tell us some of the stories, but he's always really cool about it. Like, come on, Kevin, tell us what was like going on there. but I mean, they wrote a book about it, The Masters of Doom. But so yeah, that's the origins of the company. When I was there, Carmack was on his way out. There was an overlap with me and Carmack by about a month, 2 months. And I saw him a couple times at the studio. The guy's obviously a genius. And but now, honestly, id is like Disney. So I am the next generation. You know, Disney was founded by the 9 old men. They invented the medium and blah, blah, blah. And then those guys retired and the next generation came in and they did Little Mermaid and Lion King. And then those guys retired and now it's the Pixar generation. So right now in its sort of timeline, I think we're in the Little Mermaid phase of id. We're like generation 2. and then after us, there'll be another. Somebody's got to carry on the mantle, and carry the torch for id after we're all gone. But it's an honor, man. I value these IPs tremendously. It's a really big deal to work on them. I have to treat them with respect. If I don't, the fans will find where I live, and I will be in serious trouble.
Ouch.
But no, you know what though? It's awesome because at every turn in your career and every path along the way, you've given your absolute best. You're 100%. You've been so engaged and interested, even if you didn't know exactly what you were doing, as you said. It just is refreshing to see someone that's worked that hard and done that much land in the spot and respect the spot and talk so nicely of your predecessors, and it just feels right that you're in that spot based on everything you've been saying.
Man, my brother, thank you for that. My brother, like we said, he was the kid playing handball with the Ozzy shirt on. Doom is all about classic album cover. Like, that's what I base Doom on, because that's the origins of Doom. Like, when you look at the brand and what they based it on, I'm like, dude, I grew up with that shit. Like, I was, man,
Iron Maiden album covers, right?
That's it. Exactly. The first things that I drew were Iron Maiden album covers. That's exactly what Doom looks like. If you look at Doom Eternal, that's 100% what it looks like, you know?
And consequently, George has pointed out multiple times, those graphics were way ahead of their time. Those Iron Maiden covers, they were incredible.
Unbelievable. Absolutely. And
I mean, Hugo, I think you would agree that it was mesmerizing. The art of like the Iron Maiden stuff and the Judas Priest, Anthrax, all those early mid 80s heavy metal stuff was just incredible. Yeah, Dio.
And that's it. So in our folders when we're designing Doom, that's all we look at, you know, like, because it's you know, respectfully paying tribute to that great era of art and music, and then we modernize it, of course, for a new generation. And what's amazing, honestly, dude, is you know, it's found an audience, a huge audience, and I think we're super proud of that. You know, there's an element of nostalgia to Doom, and I think that's great. But it can't all just be nostalgia. I think we've seen that lately with movies that maybe over-index on the nostalgia, and you're like, all right, man, you got to do something new also. I think
you're talking to the choir on that one.
yeah.
I get so inundated with the lack of ideas, and you know, listen, I come from a background where I love that we have finally come to a point where the studios recognize all of this wonderful IPs that originally existed that were just being left by the wayside and treated with proper respect, you know, Marvel Comics and blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, I also miss All the President's Men. I miss my Apocalypse Now, my Clockwork Oranges. I miss my serious cinema, which is, as it has become what comic books were in the 70s, right? They have fallen by the wayside, and now you barely find them on the digital platforms. And now we've become almost inundated with that sort of culture permeated us. It's front and center now, and I don't see it actually repealing anytime soon.
I actually then totally agree. And then but with A24 now, it's I'm blown away with how good the horror movies are becoming. Like, that's where the real art is now. Like, honestly,
that we can agree on. Because that's what I mean. I'm a film producer. I generally make horror movies, so that's my main focus. So I agree with you. Horror films I look at separately than the genres we were just talking about, because they can be both fantasy and extraordinarily serious, right? I mean, you can have everything from The Thing to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and those are two completely different worlds and two Class A horror films. You know,
I you know, I would say it among the best movies that I've seen. I couldn't agree with you more. And then it's like the originality now is in horror films, and like It Follows was one of the best movies I've seen in a really fucking long time. I was blown away with how good that movie is. Like,
solid motion picture.
And then you know, Hereditary is, I mean, it's, I want to say this. I don't know if I could say this. All right, I think I could say it. I'm going to put that up there with The Exorcist, I think, in terms of just like, I watched that shit so many times, especially the end. The end in the attic it's just, I can't stop watching it. I'm like, everything
In the
about this.
attic, or is that's in the tree?
Yeah, sorry, the treehouse.
Yeah, in the treehouse.
The treehouse. Like, dude, Jesus Christ. Like it's so good. It is such a good movie. And I thank God that that's going on. You know, like I really do.
And you know, things like Get Out. You know, I totally agree with what you're saying, that the face of horror has actually been able to come up front and center. You know, even David Gordon Green's Halloween was a movie that made $80 million at the box office.
Which is amazing.
That's never, you know, it's not, that's rare, right? I mean, how rare is that? And now it's become the norm, you know. And I wasn't a big fan of the two It films, but they grossed a fortune, you know. So
I really liked a lot the first It, the character, like
the second one, yeah.
I couldn't get enough of his portrayal of Pennywise. His voice and everything. I've watched that. I loved that so much. I really did. Yeah, I just the way that he carried the whole. I mean, as he should. He was the star of the movie. But like, I couldn't get enough of him, for sure. And no, it's really. Then what's hilarious now is like, you know, you go see the remake movies and you're just like, God damn it, man, this is terrible. And then over the break, I watched Cobra Kai, which turns out to be like one of the best fucking shows I've ever seen. Like I watched that stuff like a little kid. I felt like
we've been waiting for Zapka to fucking do that. Everyone's behind Zapka right now, right? How are you not?
I haven't been that engaged in something since the time that Jessie Spano started taking the episode she took Speed on Saved by the Bell. I mean, I was riveted. I was just like, we're watching the next season immediately. You know, we binged it. We binged, you know, seasons 1 through 4, and this show's awesome. It's amazing. And there's no way that they would have made a movie that would have been that good. Like
No.
Like this is honestly, I felt that way a little bit about Dune. I got to be honest, and I love Dune. I thought it was really good. I was like, dude, this is beautiful. It looks really cool. Didn't really like the end, but still thought it was dope. But I was like, man, Dune the show would have been pretty dope, or Dune the video game, that would have been awesome. But
they would not have had the money.
Yeah,
They would not have had the money that they had for the movie. And you know, the movie ends in the middle of the book, so
yeah,
he has. I mean, he's a little mad at everybody right now, Denise, but it'll come to fruition. It's all about the second half. That's where it all comes together in part two.
The thing I noticed, and I think it's COVID. It's totally COVID, but like the at times just the lack of like I want to say production value, I guess, because it's like the final scene in Dune. Like there was some amazing scenes in that movie. I really liked it. I was like, this is beautiful. But then at the end, it's just, you get the sense that they're like, all right, we got to shoot the final scene. We have no money. Where are we going to do this? I don't know, like behind the rocks over here. Just like, should we wait till sunset? Nah, fuck it. Who cares? Just go behind the rocks, you know, like just fight. And you're like, dude, this is the end of a major motion picture.
I did not feel that, but okay.
You know, I remember sitting in a movie theater and I was like, this is where we're doing this? Like behind, you know, where are we? Like, this is like, you know, they just, the guy's like, where are we going to do this? Right over there by the rocks, you know, and you know, like, it just felt so underwhelming. And then same with Ghostbusters Afterlife. I remember being like, this here, like, dude, in the 80s when there was no CG, we had the Marshmallow Man walking down Manhattan, climbing buildings. We had other worlds opening up on the top of the fucking, you know, skyscrapers. In Afterlife, with all of our CG effects, we could make all that shit fake, green screen. It was in a fucking cornfield. There was nothing. Like, and both times I was just like, what's going on? Like, are they just, but it's probably COVID, I would think. I don't know.
That movie was done before COVID, so that doesn't have an excuse. But
hey, Hugo,
it's about time to wrap it up. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, Hugo, we want to be mindful of your time. I know you got to go, but I know that you are a Star Wars fan, and I know you're a fan of this film, Road Warrior from the 80s.
Never heard.
I
of it.
am.
Last episode of Boba Fett. Did you see it? And
I did.
is it an homage to the Road Warrior?
I did not see the last episode of Boba Fett because the first episode of Boba Fett, some people whose opinion I respect were like spitting on the floor. So I was like, oh man, like really, this is not good. But I'm gonna see it anyway. But so it's doing a Road Warrior thing.
Well, I thought it did. Roger, did you see the second episode?
I wait till those things are all lined up.
Nah.
Because
Yes.
it's every Wednesday, so that I can just watch it all the way through.
Did you guys see one last thing here? Another gem that I stumbled across with streaming is Primal, Gendy Tartakovsky's Primal. It's a caveman and a dinosaur, so it's animated. But all you guys should check it out. Talk
Okay.
about art, man. Holy shit! And it's total doom. I mean, it's just pure nonsense, violence, caveman tearing apart fucking dinosaurs, and like, dude, it's called Primal. It's directed and created by Gendy Tartakovsky he did Clone Wars. He did Powerpuff Girls. He guy's an amazing director of animation, and it's gorgeous. It's violent. It's that nobody talks. You know, it's just about a cave or this vicious, caveman just trying to make his way through this prehistoric world.
It says he was inspired by Conan the Barbarian, vintage pulp novels, and The Revenant.
Yeah, that's accurate. It is bonkers. Easy show to watch. Trust me, you guys. Watch a couple episodes. Like you guys will dig it. It's beautiful too. It's gorgeous. Like just really beautiful show.
What's it on? What platform?
It's Cartoon Network. So whoever carries Cartoon Network, I forget.
Okay.
I think like maybe HBO Max or something.
Give him a plug.
Yeah, really, really good. Lastly, I started to watch Midsommar, but then like it's weird because I've had some people say that is really, the guy who made
It's pronounced Midsummer.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the like I've heard people say that it's
the director, yeah.
Yeah, I heard people say it's really good, and then I've seen
it.
some okay, good. Because I was like, this has got to be good. Come on, dude. That guy's like a
I
genius.
dig the shit out of it. It's fun. It's longer. It's funnier. It's fucking darkly funny, especially in the beginning. And it's like, and it's the movie that gives us Florence Pugh, and now she's become a household name practically, and she is fantastic in it. It owes a lot to the Wicker Man, owes a lot to the original Wicker Man, but I think it does a very damn good job. I know there were some people who hate it. Fuck the haters. I think that movie's damn good.
I watched a tiny bit. I forgot where I was. I was like on my couch with my headphones on and my kids, and then there was like a scene, and they were taking drugs, and this one dude was losing his mind, and I started to get this wicked anxiety. I'm like, man, this is gonna be one of those movies. Like,
there's a scene when they're on hallucinogens that I swear to God is deadly accurate.
Yeah, no, there was this one dude who just was losing it. I'm like, you could feel yourself like you were on the field with them. Like, dude, you gotta shut up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hugo,
that's all.
I appreciate your time. This is really dope. It's great to reconnect, and I know a lot of people we know listen, and they're going to be excited to hear your voice. So thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, and I wish I would have. You know what? I should have put two and two together because I was in your neighborhood like this past. Dude, we just got back 2 days ago because I got COVID when I was there, and my whole family got COVID, and we were not stuck there, but we had to stay there for 10 days. So like a 10-day trip ended up being an 18-day trip. It was crazy.
It's only 5 days now, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, next time, bro. Good talking to you. And Pete, you want to take us out here?
Oh, dude, it was fantastic, man. Thanks so much. Really, what a great journey and what a really cool conversation. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
That is your episode of $5 Buzz. On behalf of Roger and George, I'm Pete, and enjoy, folks.
We'll see you soon.
Don't forget to like us and email us any questions or comments you might have, or any future guests you might have. $5 buzz at gmail.com. And we'll get back to you as soon as we get done playing Doom Eternal for the next 10,000 hours. Thank
Hell
you.
yeah.
Good job. Thanks a lot, guys.